the alien empire had never lost a war. Their fleets ruled the galaxy like a storm that never stopped. Worlds fell before them without a fight, and those who resisted were erased completely. No one dared to challenge them anymore. On a distant battlefield, a final war was ending. A smaller alien alliance stood broken, their ships damaged, their forces scattered. The Empire fleet surrounded them, slowly closing in like hunters finishing their prey. Victory was certain. One of the Empire commanders looked at the battlefield with calm pride. "This is the end," he said. "Prepare final strike." Thousands of weapons powered up, lighting the darkness of space. The smaller fleet had no chance. Their leaders sent desperate signals asking for mercy, asking for peace. But no answer came. The Empire did not believe in mercy. Just as the final command was about to be given, something unexpected appeared, a signal weak but clear. Unknown ship entering battlefield. The commander frowned. Display it all. Screens across the fleet changed in the middle of the battlefield, far away from both sides. A single ship appeared. It was small compared to the massive Empire vessels. Dark in color, smooth in design, no visible weapons, no heavy armor, no fleet behind it, just one ship alone. The entire battlefield went quiet. "Who is that?" one officer asked. No response came from the system. No record, no match, unknown origin. The commander felt slight annoyance. Another foolish species thinking they can interfere. "Open channel," he ordered. A signal was sent to the unknown ship. "Identify yourself or be destroyed." Seconds passed, no reply. The ship did not move, did not turn, did not react. It simply stayed there watching. The Empire commander smiled slightly. "They do not understand where they are. Fire a warning shot." A single beam shot across space, exploding near the unknown ship. The light faded. The ship remained unchanged, not even a small movement. This time, the commander frowned deeper. Full scanners moved across the ship again and again, but something was wrong. The readings were unstable, as if the ship was not fully there. Mass readings, low energy readings, unclear. It made no sense. "What is this?" another officer whispered. Still no response from the ship. The battlefield tension grew. Even the defeated Alliance ships stopped sending signals. Everyone was watching. The Empire commander felt something strange. Not fear, but confusion, and he did not like it. "Final warning," he said. "All weapons ready. Destroy the unknown ship before the order could be executed." The unknown ship moved not fast, not aggressive, just a small shift forward. But that movement changed everything. It felt like the battlefield itself reacted, like space noticed it. Like something had just awakened. A low signal spread across all channels, not loud, not threatening, but clear. "This battlefield is now under human control." The words echoed across every ship. Human, the name meant nothing to most. But the tone, the calm certainty, it felt wrong. The commander laughed, trying to break the tension. "One ship cannot control anything. Fire." Thousands of weapons launched at once, at storm of destruction, moving toward the single human ship. Light-filled space energy waves crashing forward. For a moment, the human ship disappeared inside the explosion. The Empire fleet watched, waiting confident. When the light faded, the ship was still there, unchanged. No damage, no movement, only silence. This time no one spoke. The commander stared at the screen, his mind searching for an answer. But there was none. The small human ship stood in front of an entire empire, and it did not fear them. It did not run it, did not fight. It simply existed, and somehow that was more terrifying than anything they had ever faced. They fired without waiting. The alien empire had never needed to hesitate. Their weapons were enough to erase anything in their path. A storm of energy rushed toward the single human ship, bright, powerful, unstoppable. The battlefield, filled with light ships from both sides, turned their sensors away to avoid the overload. For a moment, nothing could be seen, only energy and silence. The Empire commander watched with calm certainty. "No ship survives." That he said. Seconds passed. Then the light slowly faded. The battlefield became visible again, and the human ship was still there, unchanged. Not a single mark, not even a small shift in position. Silence spread across every channel. No one spoke, no one understood. The commander leaned forward, his eyes narrow. Impossible. Scan again. Multiple systems locked onto the human ship. But the data returned broken, unclear mass readings, unstable energy readings, fluctuating, as if the ship was not fully real, like it existed in more than one place at once. Another officer whispered. "Sir, the readings are overlapping." The commander snapped. "Explain." We cannot, sir. It is like the ship is phasing the word hung in the air, phasing something no known technology could achieve at this level. The commander felt irritation rise. Enough prepares second strike. This time they did not hold back. Thousands of weapons aligned every ship targeting the human vessel full power. Attack the command was given and the second storm began. Beams, missiles, energy waves. Everything launched together. A wall of destruction moving forward. The human ship did not move it, did not try to escape it. Simply waited. The attack reached it. And then something changed. The energy slowed. Not all at once, but gradually, as if space itself was resisting, like pushing through something thick and invisible. Then the beams bent, curving away from the ship. Some split apart, others faded completely. Nothing reached the surface. Nothing caused damage. The alien fleet stared in shock. Their strongest weapons had just failed, not blocked, not reflected, but controlled. The commander felt something unfamiliar. Not fear, but the beginning of it. Open communication, he ordered. A channel was sent directly to the human ship. Identify yourself. State your purpose. No response came. The ship remained silent, watching, waiting. The commander tried again. This is your final warning. Leave or be destroyed. Still, nothing. The silence felt heavy, like it was pressing down on the entire fleet. Then suddenly, every screen flickered. A signal appeared. Simple, clear. You have already attacked. Now you will observe the message spread across all ships. No threat. No anger, just certainty. The commander slammed his hand down. They think this is a game. Lock them again. Before the order could complete, the human ship moved just slightly. But this time the effect was immediate. Every ship closest to it felt a sudden pull. Their navigation systems reacted too late. Positions shifted. Distances changed, formations broke. What is happening? Ships reported unstable coordinates. Engines pushing but not responding correctly, as if something invisible was altering their path. This is not possible, one officer said. Space does not behave like this. But it was the human ship continued its slow movement, and with each second the effect grew stronger. Alien ships drifted further apart, their perfect lines broken into chaos. Communication delays began, signals taking longer to reach their targets, orders arriving out of sync. The fleet was losing coordination, and without coordination their power meant nothing. Far inside the human ship, a calm voice spoke. Field active, distortion stable. The crew worked without stress, without fear. They were not reacting, they were executing. Captain Elias Vorn stood silently watching the alien fleet fall into disorder. He had seen this before, not this exact battle, but this pattern. Power without understanding, confidence without awareness. He spoke quietly. They still believe this is a fight. One officer responded. It is not. Elias shook his head slightly. No, it is a lesson outside the battlefield. Continued to shift. Alien ships tried to regroup, but every attempt failed. Their systems could not agree on what was real. Targets moved when they should not. Distances changed without reason. Even time felt slightly delayed, small errors becoming larger problems. The commander tried to control all ships, stabilize positions, ignore sensor errors, but ignoring them made it worse. Ships collided. Others drifted into unstable zones. The formation collapsed completely. For the first time in their history, the Empire fleet looked weak. Not because of damage, but because of confusion, because of loss of control. And in the center of it all, the small human ship moved slowly, unchallenged, untouched, and fully in control of everything around it. The commander looked at the screen, his confidence gone, replaced by something colder. They are not fighting us, he said quietly. They are controlling us. The human ship did not rush. It did not chase. It did not celebrate. It simply moved forward slowly, as if the entire battlefield belonged to it. And in that moment, the alien fleet realized something terrible. They were no longer in control. The Empire commander tried to regain order. All ships hold position, stabilize systems, but the command reached too late. Some ships received it after delay. Others received nothing at all. Their communication network was breaking apart. Signals were distorted, twisted, delayed, like something unseen was interfering with every connection. This is not possible. One officer said, we are losing sync. The commander clenched his fists. Boost, all systems maximum output, force stability. Engines roared with power. But instead of fixing the problem, it made it worse. Ships began to drift faster, their positions shifting without warning. Some rotated slowly, unable to stop, others moved in directions they never commanded. It was as if space itself had turned against them far ahead. The human ship stopped again, completely still. Then a second pulse spread across the battlefield, stronger than before. Deeper this time, the effect was immediate. Entire sections of the alien fleet went dark. Not destroyed. Just silent, no signals, no movement. Dead ships floating in space. Panic. Spread report status voices filled the channels, but answers did not come. Systems were failing everywhere. Navigation lost, weapons offline, shields unstable. Nothing responded correctly. Deep inside the human vessel, Captain Elias Vorn watched the collapse, his face calm, his mind already moving ahead. Phase 3. Stable, increased pressure. His crew followed instantly. The invisible field expanded further, touching more ships, breaking more systems. The battlefield turned into chaos. Alien ships collided slowly, massive hulls crushing into each other's, drifted into dangerous zones where gravity twisted their structure. Small cracks became large fractures, power cores destabilized. Yet the human ship had not fired a single real attack. This was not destruction. This was control. The Empire commander felt something he had never felt before. Helplessness. They were strong. They had numbers. They had power, but none of it mattered because they could not use it. Then suddenly, new signals appeared. Reinforcements, the core fleet, their most advanced ships entering the battlefield. Bigger, stronger, more resistant. For a moment, hope returned. The commander straightened. Finally, they will end this. The core fleet moved in perfect formation, their systems more stable, resisting the strange distortion. They locked onto the human ship. Immediately, target confirmed, weapons ready, fire. A powerful focus strike launched forward, stronger than anything before. It moved fast, direct, unstoppable. But as it reached the human ship, it slowed just like before, but this time it did not fade. It bent, curving around the ship like it was being guided, then split apart, redirected into empty space, as if the human ship decided where the attack should go. Silence followed. The core fleet commanders stared in disbelief. Their strongest attack meant nothing. Then the human ship responded for the first time with something that looked like an attack. A single thin beam, quiet, controlled. It moved toward one of the core ships. It touched the hull, and for a moment nothing happened. Then every system on that ship shut down completely. No explosion, no damage, just silence. A massive warship reduced to a drifting object in 1 second. The message was clear. We can end you anytime. Panic spread faster than ever. Even the core fleet hesitated, their confidence shaken, their advantage gone. The Empire commander whispered, "What are they?" No one answered, because there was no answer. Far inside the human ship, Elias looked at the battlefield. The chaos, the fear, the collapse. Everything was exactly where he wanted it. They were broken, not physically but mentally, and that was the true victory. He turned slightly. Prepare final phase. His voice remained calm, but now it carried something heavier, something final, because the lesson was over, and what came next would not be control. It would be the end. The battlefield no longer felt like a place of war. It felt like a trap that had already closed. The alien fleet drifted in broken formation, their systems unstable, their control slipping further with every passing moment. They still had power. They still had weapons, but none of it mattered anymore, because they could not use it the way they wanted. Captain Elias Vorn stood silently watching the slow collapse. His eyes moved across the display, reading every movement, every error, every failure. This was the turning point. Not the moment of attack, but the moment of understanding. They now knew they could not win, yet they had not accepted it, and that made them dangerous. The Empire commander forced his voice across the broken channels. All ships regroup, ignore system errors, follow manual command. His words reached some ships, others never received them. Those who did tried to obey. Engines pushed harder, ships forced themselves into position. Slowly a rough formation began to form. Not perfect, not stable, but something. Hope tried to rise again. "We can still fight," one officer said. "We are not defeated." The commander nodded, holding on to that belief. "Focus all fire on the human ship. Do not stop until it is destroyed." Weapons powered up again. Not as coordinated as before, but still strong, still dangerous. A new wave of attacks launched, less perfect, but filled with desperation. The human ship remained still, watching, waiting. Then something changed. For the first time, the human ship did not ignore the attack. It reacted not by moving away, but by moving forward, slow, steady, unstoppable. The distance between it and the alien fleet closed. And with each step forward, the pressure increased. Systems flickered more violently. Engines struggled. Harder navigation failed faster. It was like the space around the ship was collapsing inward, pulling everything toward disorder. The incoming attack slowed again. But this time, they did not just fade. They broke apart completely, energy tearing itself into fragments. Before reaching the target, the alien fleet watched in fear, their strongest efforts falling apart before even touching the enemy. "This is not war," one voice whispered. "This is control of reality far inside the human vessel." Elias gave a quiet command. "Reduce limitation." The crew responded instantly. Something deep within the ship activated, something that had been held back until now. The distortion field grew stronger, heavier. More aggressive alien ships closest to the human vessel began to shake their structure under pressure, metal bending slightly, systems screaming with errors. Some ships lost power, completely drifting helplessly. Others tried to escape, but their paths twisted, their direction changed without command. Escape was no longer possible. The Empire commander felt the truth settle inside him. "They are not letting us leave." His voice was quiet now, not filled with anger, but with realization. "They never were." Another officer looked at him. "What do we do for the first time?" He had no answer. Far across the battlefield, the core fleet made one final move. Their largest ships gathered together, forming a tight defensive cluster. If they could not win, they would survive. They combined their power, their shields overlapping, their systems reinforcing each other. A last stand. The human ship stopped again, directly facing them. A silent moment passed, long enough for every ship to feel it. Then the human vessel acted, not with speed, not with noise, but with precision. A focused wave moved outward, not wide, not random, but directed. It reached the core fleet, and their shields reacted. For a second they held strong, bright, stable, then cracks appeared. Small at first, then spreading. Their combined strength breaking under pressure they could not understand. One by one, the shields collapsed, systems overloaded, engines failed, the entire defensive formation began to fall apart, their last hope gone. The Empire commander closed his eyes for a brief moment. "It is over," he said softly. But the battle was not finished yet, because the humans had not given the final command. And until that moment came, the fear would only grow. The silence would only deepen, and the end would move closer. Slow, inevitable, unstoppable. The moment of waiting ended. There was no signal, no loud command, no sudden movement, but something shifted. Something final. Captain Elias Forn stood still, his eyes fixed on the remains of the alien fleet. They were no longer an army. They were fragments, broken groups drifting without purpose, without control, without hope. And yet they still existed. And that meant the war was not finished. Elias spoke quietly. "Begin final phase." His voice carried across the human ship. No hesitation, no emotion, only decision. Outside, the battlefield changed instantly. Human ships that had stayed hidden until now began to appear, not from one direction, but from everywhere, above, behind, and ahead. Hundreds of ships surrounding the alien fleet completely. They did not rush forward. They did not fire immediately. They simply arrived, silent, perfectly aligned. The alien survivors saw them. And for the first time, there was no confusion, no anger, only fear. One officer whispered, "They were always here. We just could not see them." The Empire commander stared at the display, his hands no longer steady. This was never a battle. This was an execution. The human fleet held position, waiting, every weapon ready, every target locked. The silence stretched long enough to feel endless. Then Elias gave the command, "Fire," and the stars burned. Beams of light cut through the darkness. Not wild, not chaotic, but precise. Each strike chosen, each target important. Alien ships were hit one after another. Engines destroyed, weapons disabled, core systems shattered. Some ships exploded instantly. Others went dark, drifting lifeless. The alien fleet tried to respond, but their systems were still broken, their coordination gone. Their attacks scattered into empty space. Nothing reached the human ships. Nothing changed the outcome. The human fleet moved slowly, closing the distance. Not chasing, not rushing, just tightening the circle. The trap fully closed. The massive human vessel at the center activated again. its presence heavier than before. The distortion field intensified space itself, bending under its influence. Alien ships closest to it began to collapse inward, their structure unable to resist, metal twisting. Systems screaming until they broke apart silently. The rest of the fleet tried to escape. Some turned their ships away, pushing engines beyond limit. But every path led back into control, their direction altered, their movement redirected. Escape was no longer possible. The Empire commander opened a channel, his voice, weak. We surrender. We request ceasefire. We accept defeat. The words spread across the battlefield, repeated again and again, but the human fleet did not stop. Not immediately. They continued their precise strikes, removing every remaining threat, ensuring nothing could rise again. Only when the last active weapon was gone, only when the last resistance ended, did the attack slow, then stopped. The battlefield fell silent. Again, but this time it was different. This was not the silence of waiting. This was the silence of ending wreckage, drifted in every direction, broken. Ships, lifeless remains of a once unstoppable empire. The few surviving vessels floated powerless. No weapons, no shields, no control, only existence. Captain Elias looked at the display. Everything had gone as planned. No wasted movement. No unnecessary destruction. Only what was required. He turned slightly. Status: all hostile forces neutralized. No active threats remain. He nodded once, then spoke. Hold position outside the human fleet. Remained still, watching, ensuring, waiting for any sign of danger, but none came because there was nothing left to fight. The war was no longer a war. It was finished, and the galaxy had just witnessed something it would never forget. Not power, not size, but control, precision, and the quiet certainty of a species that did not need to prove anything, only to end it when the moment came. The battlefield was silent in a way no one had ever felt before. Not the silence of waiting, not the silence before attack, but the silence after. Everything had ended, broken. Ships drifted slowly across the dark, small pieces of metal, turning without direction, lights fading, systems dead. The great alien empire that once ruled without challenge now existed only as scattered remains. Captain Elias Bourne stood still, looking at the scene, his face calm, his eyes steady. There was no victory in his expression, no pride, only understanding. This was not glory. This was the result of a choice. A weak signal reached the human fleet, one of the last surviving alien ships, damaged, barely holding together, requesting communication for a moment. Elias said nothing. He allowed the silence to stay, to grow, to settle inside every surviving mind. Then he nodded, open channel. The screen lit up. An alien leader appeared. Its form weakened, its voice low. We surrender, we accept all conditions. We were wrong. The words were slow, heavy, not forced, but realized. Elias looked at the being, his voice calm. You chose this path, we did not force it. The alien lowered its head. We believed power was enough. We believed no one could stand against us. Elias answered. Power without understanding always falls. Silence followed the alien, had no answer because it had seen the truth with its own eyes. Far beyond the battlefield, signals of the events spread across the galaxy. Worlds watched, leaders listened. The story moved faster than light. A single human ship, an entire empire. Broken fear followed the story, but so did something else: respect. Back on the battlefield, the human fleet remained still, not as conquerors, but as watchers, ensuring nothing remained that could cause harm again. The surviving alien ships were given a path. They were allowed to leave, not as equals, but as witnesses, to carry the memory of what had happened, to remind others, to warn them. Elias turned slightly. Prepare. Final transmission. His crew moved quickly. The message was simple, clear, and final. Humans do not seek control. Humans do not seek war, but if war is brought to them, they will end it completely. The signal was sent across every known system this time. No one laughed. No one ignored it, because now the galaxy understood. Humans were not loud. They were not aggressive without reason. They waited. They observed. They learned. And when the moment came, they acted with precision. No one could match the young officer standing near. Elias spoke quietly. Sir, is it over? Elias looked at the fading battlefield. For now, he said. The officer nodded slowly, understanding that this was not just an ending. It was a message, a line drawn across the galaxy, one that would not be crossed again. The human ships began to move, not rushing, not celebrating, just leaving one by one, disappearing into the stars as if they had never been there. Only the silence remained, and the memory. Far away on distant worlds, leaders gathered, they spoke, in low voices, they changed their plans. They adjusted their future because everything had changed. No one could challenge the Empire before. But now, no one would challenge humanity, because they had seen what happens when a human ship enters the battlefield. It does not fight for victory. It arrives when the war is already over.